recording the meeting. This meeting is being recorded so that we can post it on our website. This is our website right here on the screen. All right, Leonard, I am going to go to the presentation and you can take it away. To Leonard Sledge, the Director of Economic Development for the City of Richmond. I am Maritza Peachin, in charge of the Office of Equitable Development for the City of Richmond. And this is a meeting on an update on the Resort Casino RFQ/RFP process.
Thank you, Maritza. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leonard Sledge again, and it's my privilege to serve as the Director of Economic Development for the City of Richmond. We really are appreciative of each of you logging in, calling in tonight to be a part of the conversation around the resort casino opportunity in the City of Richmond. Joining us tonight, we have Sharon Ebert, who's the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Planning and Economic Development. Maritza introduced herself. We also have Bob Steidel, who is the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Operations. Matthew Welch, who's a Senior Policy Advisor in the DCAO's office. Devin Wood, our Marketing Manager in Economic Development. And we are really pleased to have also with us Suzanne Leckhart and Scott Fisher, who are with Convergence Strategy Group. Convergence Strategy Group is the consultant team that the Economic Development Authority hired on behalf of the city to assist us in the evaluation of the request for proposals that we've received, and also to negotiate any agreements that we might move forward with. We're just really thankful. We've set aside about an hour and 10 minutes tonight, just to share with everyone in a condensed version, some of the feedback that we've received on Konveio and in our conversations over the past couple of weeks since we launched the virtual community engagement platform to talk about the resort casino opportunity. And then we're just going to open it up for Q&A, have some conversation and dialogue. So with that, Maritza, please, next slide. Just to refresh everyone's memory in terms of the RFQ/RFP timeline, the city, we released a survey on December the 1st, give us some information, some feedback to help craft the final RFQ/RFP document, which was released in late December. The city received 6 proposals on February the 22nd in response to our RFQ/RFP process. Prior to us receiving those proposals, Convergence Strategy Group, they completed a market analysis, a market assessment for the City of Richmond in terms of casino gaming. That document is posted now on the city's economic development website. And also, if you watch the video from the last meetings that we had, you'll see and hear some of the information, some of the content from that analysis as well. We're moving through this evaluation process. There are 9 members of the evaluation panel, which includes 2 members of council, Vice President Ellen Robertson and Council Member Andreas Addison. The other 7 members of the evaluation panel are Lincoln Saunders, acting CAO for the city, Sharon Ebert, who I mentioned and introduced earlier, Bob Steidel, also who was mentioned and introduced. Also joining us on the evaluation panel are Chief Melvin Carter, Fire Chief for the City of Richmond, Valerie Mitchell, who serves as the Director of the Office of Community Wealth Building, Maritza Peachin, and myself. We're working through the evaluation of the proposals to make a recommendation to Mayor Stoney on the preferred operator and site in the City of Richmond to be home to a resort casino opportunity. Once the evaluation panel makes its recommendation to Mayor Stoney, there will be a series of papers that are introduced to City Council. City Council would have to take action to petition the court so that there would be a voter referendum on November the 2nd, 2021. And at that time, all Richmonders who are voting will be able to say absolutely yes or no by casting their ballot, as to whether or not they'd like to have a resort casino in the City of Richmond. Next slide, please. And so again, we received 6 proposals, all offering something unique and different as it relates to a resort casino opportunity in the city of Richmond. All of this information, these 6 information sheets, can be found on the city's economic development website. We have a dedicated page with all of the information about this resort casino RFP process. We've received proposals from Valley, which is proposing on a 61-acre site off of Forest Hill Avenue at the intersection of the Powhite and Chippenham Parkways. Golden Nugget Hotel and Casino is also proposing on the same site. One Casino and Resort is proposing on the former Altria Operations Center site on South Commerce Drive. Catacorner across the street on an undeveloped site, the Pamunkey Tribe Resort and Casino is being proposed. And Scott's Addition on the Bowtie Cinemas and Movie Land site. The Cordish Companies is proposing Live Casino and Hotel Richmond, and also on a site that currently houses tobacco warehouses, reuse or repurposed tobacco warehouses. Wind Creek, Richmond. Wind Creek is proposing a resort casino project. Again, all of this information can be found on the city's economic development website. What we asked the proposers to do several weeks ago was to provide us with information on a template that we provided them with, and this is the outcome. This is the product that they've produced, again, just to help inform our citizens a little more about their proposed projects. Next slide, please. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Maritza to go over the agenda for this evening and to dive into some of the feedback that we received from Konveio. Maritza.
Hi, thank you. Maritza Peachin with the City of Richmond. Today we're going to review some of the comments, go over some common questions that folks have been asking, and then I also wanted to remind everyone that on the website you can see those one-pagers. Videos will be posted tomorrow. There'll be additional feedback boards posted tomorrow. Links to the meetings that are going to be next week, and then other relevant documents like the original RFQ, RFP presentations, that market study that Leonard mentioned. I think will actually get posted tomorrow. The website has to clear the cache, but it should get posted pretty soon. And then we'll go over the next steps in the process. During this meeting, if you you are welcome to write a question in the chat. Note that we are unable to respond to your chat questions, but you can certainly put questions in there. And then when we get to the end, we'll open it up for folks to ask questions, and we'll go back and forth between the chat questions and then people asking questions aloud. So we had 3 virtual boards up, community benefits, mitigation, and revenue uses. These are still up today. You can go on these pages and put comments right now. We've had about 241 total comments posted. The good majority of them are specifically about locations. Some of them say that people don't want a resort casino, or they're upset about various items. There's about 41 questions. A bunch of them are about how to use potential revenue, thinking about how the environment might be impacted by various sites, concerns about traffic and safety, and then comments about tourism generally. There's a lot of different topics, and you are totally welcome to go in, get into dialogue with other people, thumbs up them, thumbs down them, and continue adding to these. These will be up until April 6th, and then we'll take them down and review them and provide a report on what we heard from people. So I want to go over some of the common questions, and I'm going to kind of tap on Leonard and Scott and Suzanne and others from our presenter panel to answer some of these. So one of them is about additional development, and kind of additional development. I'm taking this question to say, will additional development be geared toward local businesses? I foresee this only becoming a center for big chain store and surface parking lot development. What types of additional development are typical within the surrounding areas of a casino? So Leonard, do you want to try to answer a couple of those for the benefit of the crowd?
Sure, and then I'm going to tap into Scott and Suzanne with their global expertise as well. I think if individuals were to go in to look at the one-page summary sheets, they will see some very different ideas and concepts, some that that lend themselves to an urban mixed use environment, and then others that are more so a true standalone resort casino, and what people might typically think about it. I think in terms of gearing towards local businesses, I think what's interesting is that there are quite a few proposals that include strong participation from local businesses, some mechanisms so that local businesses throughout the city of Richmond benefit in the overall economic uplift. I don't think it would be the type of project that would be where people would have concerns about a big chain store being next door to it. Again, each of the sites are different and unique in their own right. But I don't think that's one for people that people should be concerned about. Suzanne, anything else?
Sorry, I was muted. I was going to speak to the question nothing to what you had said, but I was going to speak to the question regarding the typical development surrounding a casino, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, typical doesn't quite exist in casino gaming in our experience. There are many different types of casino developments and resort casino developments. Some that are in more remote locations that really those tend to be kind of standalone facilities that don't really spur much additional development. The visitors drive there, park their cars, go inside the resort casino, and when they're done, they get in their car and they drive on home. And there's not much spur of other businesses. But there's also examples of casinos that are built in the middle of downtown areas, or in suburban centers, where perhaps they're not spurring additional businesses, but sometimes there's kind of some support of those existing businesses. Someone who walks out of the casino and meets some friends at a restaurant down the street or something like that. But those are two different types of casinos. But I wouldn't say that there's one typical type of additional development that occurs. If that helps.
Hey, Marissa, if I'm sorry, Scott.
I wasn't going to add much to it. I was saying exactly what Suzanne said. The only things that maybe get added, depending on where the road is, things along the lines of maybe a gas station or a convenience store for those that are coming long distances to ensure that, for them coming and going. But the big box concept, that's something there's no reason why a big box store would feed off it. I don't see that happening at all.
Maritza, I'd like to take the employment questions kind of as a lump. And for those who are calling in, just so you're aware of what the questions are, will there be plans to hire a certain percentage of builders and casino workers from within our own communities? The second is, please specify how many jobs will be created and how that compares to a different development opportunity, such as a grocery store or a restaurant. How many of the jobs do we believe will go to City of Richmond residents versus the greater surrounding area? How will Richmond residents without cars get to those jobs quickly, safely, at all hours and in all weather conditions? The opportunity to have a resort casino in the City of Richmond, we're not pursuing it just for the sake of pursuing a resort casino. We're pursuing it as an opportunity to help be a part of a solution and a set of solutions for different challenges and obstacles that we have, different things that we want to continue to improve on, such as job creation across the board for Richmonders. It's our hope, it's our goal and our intent as we will launch into deeper conversations with proposers to have language in any agreements that speak to good faith effort and targets to the fullest extent that the law will allow us to in terms of hiring targets for Richmond citizens. Admittedly, because of legal restrictions, we may not be able to be as robust as we can or demonstrative in the language. But what we have seen is that the proposers that, there is a commitment to hire Richmonders to be employees on this project, in terms of the construction side of it as well. In terms of how many jobs will be created, Suzanne and Scott, their analysis shows that for the city of Richmond, a resort casino project would create at a minimum 1,875 full-time equivalent positions. So that's a hefty mixture of full-time and some part-time positions at a facility. And while we're at it, the proposers, they're all talking about very competitive wages and things of that nature. And as a city, that's an expectation that we have as well. Again, one of the other questions is about individuals getting to a facility without cars. We're mindful about the importance of transit as it relates to the location of a resort casino facility. And we fully expect to be addressing transit-related questions and issues again as we're having greater and deeper dialogue with the proposers. Scott, Suzanne, anything that I missed there?
No, I think you hit on all the major points there. You're good.
Yeah, the only thing I would add about the jobs number is when we look at the bids that came in, most of them were in the mid to high teens in terms of jobs creation, but most everyone also provides some sort of economic impact that said that there was, for every job that's created, there's roughly about half of a job that's going to be created in the local economy. So nothing to do with casino jobs, but basically providing goods and services to casino operations. So closer to, possibly 2,500 to 3,000 jobs will be created. And regarding the initial question as to what does it relate to, how do you compare that to a big box store or a hotel or something along those lines? This to be, one of the, I presume this will be one of the largest employers ultimately in Richmond when it's all said and done.
Let's tackle. Yeah.
Go for it, Maritza.
No, go for it, Leonard. You can do it. Go.
In terms of, can a casino anchor a grocery store, fund bus rapid transit, build affordable housing, extend the bus network, or combat a heat island? I think the short answer is yes. The city stands to generate a significant amount of new general fund revenue as a result of having a resort casino in the city. Suzanne and Scott's analysis show that at stabilization, that number could reach a minimum of $30 million a year, plus any additional amounts that the city negotiates over and above that. Those are payments that would be made to the city through language that's in the Virginia Casino Act, which was approved by the Virginia General Assembly. It talks about the tax structure, again, that comes directly to the city, and then through the normal real estate taxes, business personal property taxes, and meals tax, lodging tax, sales tax, and so on to the city. I'd also like to point out that we have absolutely no desire, no intent, or no expectation to provide city funding for any aspect of this project. Ultimately, the project that moves forward, it will be on that team to fully fund any and everything necessary for that project to be a success, including public infrastructure. And so I said all of that to say to get to the point, the new revenue stream, again, could help to support a number of things that are mentioned in that question. On to revenue use in terms of residents deciding how funding is spent. Does a decreased property tax rate as a result? And then the second question is, of all of these causes would be funded or could be funded via other means, what is the argument for a casino being the best way to meet these goals? So as a part of our community engagement process, we're asking for Richmonders, we've been asking for Richmonders to weigh in to give us feedback on how they'd like to see future revenues used that are generated as a result of a project like this. And we're going to continue that the conversation around that in the coming months as well. In terms of could there be other projects to fund things that the community needs and desires? The short answer is yes. But the reality is, again, as I shared previously, the opportunity from a single project to generate $30 million a year annually, it is a very significant amount. And to help give a comparison, probably about a month ago now, City Council approved the sale and redevelopment of the public safety building project for a $325 million mixed-use redevelopment project. That project at $325 million in and of itself at stabilization will only generate about $2.5 million a year in real estate tax revenue in the city of Richmond. Even the additional business, personal property tax, business license tax, and other activity in the building, it will generate additional new revenue, but not anything close to, again, the $30 million opportunity as a result of a resort casino. And so, again, yes, other means could provide funding, but the opportunity to create a significant amount of new revenue in the city from one project, again, is the opportunity. And ultimately, any new revenue that comes into the city, City Council appropriates the use of those funds. Moving on to what about Richmond's other tourism attractions? Would the casino help to bring people into those already established and Richmond resident-owned businesses? How many people visit a casino and actually leave the property? We made it a part of the RFP that the proposers had to speak to, how they would leverage and partner and collaborate with the tourism assets in the region. We think that a resort casino will help to draw additional people, give people the reason to stay in Richmond longer, again, to explore and to see and experience a lot of what makes the city all that it is wonderfully. In terms of how many people visit a casino actually leave the property, Suzanne, Scott?
Okay, so, this kind of builds on what I was saying a little bit earlier. It all depends on the type of development, whether people visit a casino and leave right away or they stay in the surrounding area. I'm looking at some research that we have here that, it really does. It really varies by site. I would say that in New Orleans, where we actually live, there's a downtown Harrah's casino, and about 50%, and it's hard to get real numbers on this, but about 50% of the visitors to that facility leave and then go somewhere else in the downtown French Quarter area. However, we have more suburban type casinos here that it's more people drive there, get in their car, and then leave immediately. You can also look at the Philadelphia market. There's a Harrah's facility there that's near the airport, and I would, while there's not data on this, I would venture to say 99% when they leave the casino, they go far away because there is nothing else in that area to keep them there. And the casino itself doesn't necessarily spur additional development surrounding it.
The issue ultimately becomes, how far or what percentage of people that come to the casino are going to be Richmond residents versus Virginia residents versus out-of-state residents and tourists, as well as what percentage are going to be staying in the hotel. And as Suzanne pointed out, that varies from casino to casino, from all ends of the spectrum. And obviously, when we look at the different bids that came in, they all came in with different building programs. Most of them had pretty similar ideas in terms of what percentage of their patrons are going to come from the city versus the state versus out of state and things of that nature. But still, the locations are all very different, and the degree to which things can be complementary to them that already exist certainly varies depending on where they're located, where the locations are.
Yeah. Scott, I'd like to add in through the analysis that was done by you and Suzanne. It's estimated that at least 78% of the revenue of the gaming revenue will be from outside of the city of Richmond. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that is. In our forecasts, that's exactly what they're showing, that by far the vast majority of visitors to the facility will be coming from outside of the city limits. And I want to speak just very briefly to some of the things that are coming up in the chat, regarding, so I use New Orleans as one example. Philadelphia, going back to Philadelphia, I mentioned the Harris facility there. Also, the newest casino in Philadelphia is right in the middle. It's in the middle of the stadium district. And the reason that developer stated that they had that they chose that site, that they developed that site, was because of the complementary entertainment activities of people going to a sporting event versus, and then maybe going to the casino afterwards, or getting a bite to eat at the casino and then going on to their other event. So there are lots of different types, but no, New Orleans is not the only example that we look at. That was just kind of an easy one where there actually is some data, because getting data on this type of thing is next to impossible.
Maritza,
Yes.
did you want to go to live questions or take some that are in the chat?
Let's talk about the environment real quick.
Okay. Oh,
about
sure.
environmental work and wetland and all these kind of things that any casino development would have to follow local, state, and federal regulations as it relates to building permits, getting access, curb cuts, all these different things that we regulate through building code, and then also that the state and federal government also regulate. So they'll have to follow all of those regular land development regulations.
There's one question that I'm seeing in the chat from Chris Eklund, which is asking about the voting process. Chris, there will only be the Virginia Casino Act is very specific about the language that will be on the voter referendum, and there will only be one project that is on the referendum that Richmonders will be able to vote yes or no on. And the process that we're going through is to select which project and which site that would be.
Let's see, we've had so many questions come in through the chat. It's really good that we're having this meeting. One question is, what is the web address? For people who are on the phone, I'm just going to say it out loud. It's rva.gov/economic-development/resort-casino. If you're looking at the screen right now, you can see it come through on your screen, the exact URL there. You can also Google RVA Resort Casino and it'll come up. We want you to be using, this is the official place to provide comment. There's also an email address on that site. This is where you should be providing your comments. There are other surveys that many people have created, but this is the official place we would like you to put your information into. So one thing that I want to talk about, Leonard, is that kind of keeps coming through is this idea that that it might seem like the city is like pitching that this should happen. What we're trying to do is make it clear what the opportunity is for potential revenue if this were to be approved by Richmond voters. So we're just trying to share the information about the potential that could happen, and then being totally aware of the mitigation that also would come in with that. Our previous presentation that is available on our website, and you can watch the video, Suzanne and Scott went over some of the mitigation and many of the studies that have been done by the University of Massachusetts about casinos and the impact on society and public health and such. Another question that came through on the chat is this a regional vote? No, it is not a regional vote. It is only Richmond voters who live within the city of Richmond. If LeVar Stoney is your mayor, that means you are in the city of Richmond. It's not if your mailing address is Richmond, VA. No. It's if you are a Richmond voter. So Leonard, City of Richmond voter. Yep. Leonard, would you like to add anything else to what I just said before we take some more questions?
No, just to emphasize, I mean, we understand clearly that there are concerns about community impact, social impacts, problem gaming, crime. There's one question that I'm looking at from Christy about the increase in petty crime in areas that have casinos. We through this process, again, we're looking to understand, the public safety implications. We'll tell you that, even as we've looked at data from Rosie's, which has been in the city coming up on 2 years, the impact on site, I won't say it's been insignificant, but it hasn't been, it hasn't caused an uptick in crime. And we're doing a deeper dive just to look at data in surrounding areas as well. We know that as a part of the work that Suzanne and Scott have done, they've done some research. They've reached out to other localities as well. Anything else that you all would like to add about crime? And folks, I've gotten emails, and we do encourage you to email, but there is the sense that a resort casino facility will cause an increase in prostitution, an increase in crime, an increase in drug activity, a lot of nefarious type of activity. And so, Suzanne and Scott, could you just speak to that based on your experiences?
I think, yes, Scott's going to take this one. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. The data that we've seen, when I've talked to police chiefs around the country about this question over the past decade, their general response is that they've seen no uptick in crime, and they don't need to staff up their police forces. That it generally, the amount of security that's in the area actually, in some cases lessens crime. But it also, some things vary in terms of, where it's located, whether it's in a small city or a small town or a big city where there's just such an influx of people. The total number of people just makes any kind of crime numbers go up. The prostitution is something that, maybe, Vegas and Atlantic City is an issue that comes in, but small standing casinos, I mean, we look at the numbers that come out of other cities, that's just not something that they see happening. And I see in the chat room people saying this happens, that some crime happens here and there. I've not heard a single police chief from anywhere in the country tell me that it's been bad for them. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not saying it's, it's going to create a crime-free town all of a sudden, but it's not. But no police chief has ever told me that it's created more crime.
Yeah, there's one question in the chat from Beth about are additional payments considered bribery? No, Beth, those additional payments to the city are not considered bribery. They would be a negotiated revenue stream to the city's general fund as a result of that operation being in the city of Richmond. Let me see, another question. Or did we want to go ahead and shift to some of the live questions?
I'm going to do some of the live questions, and actually, I'm going to call on Jamil, and you just asked a question. Some of the locations aren't in Richmond City, though. Why can't Henrico vote? That is not correct. All of the locations are in Richmond City. None of them are in Henrico or Chesterfield. But Jamil, I'm going to allow you to unmute, and then you can unmute yourself and ask your question aloud. And please keep it brief so we can get to more questions.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for unmuting me. Okay, so I was incorrect. I thought I was seeing that the Urban One location was in Henrico, like West Henrico, kind of going towards Short Pump. I'm not sure, but you're saying all of these locations are in the city of Richmond.
Correct. The one casino proposal is down near the port. It's south in like the southern part of Richmond, closer to the Chesterfield border.
Okay, excellent. Okay, that's fine. If all of them are in Richmond City, it's totally understandable that Richmond City citizens can vote. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there is a map on the website, a GIS map, where you're able to go in and see those locations and zoom in and out.
Okay. We'll unmute someone else. The next person in my line is Jason Haas, who, welcome back. We heard from you at one of the other meetings. Go ahead and unmute and share your question aloud.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I got like the little guy on my back here. So I'm from the 4th District. I know this is citywide, and I'm literally on the site plan. And so the city talks about revenue, and what we haven't talked about is, like, for the 4th District, the decrease in land value that happens when casinos come in with residential land. So not industrial or warehouse zones, but actual residential property. So it's like almost a guarantee to take the money from the community and pump it into the casino. So what is the city going to do about talking about residential areas and how that revenue generates from residential zones? Thank you.
Leonard, if you don't mind, I'll speak first to that issue on the impact on property values. So the data that is out there, which, this is something that there is data about on the impact of casinos on property values, has not indicated that it has a negative impact on residential property values. We've looked at quite a few different studies, done some research of our own over the years. I want to urge everybody that's in this meeting to look at the state of Massachusetts had started a study before they opened casinos in the state that's being run by the UMass School of Public Health and Health Sciences. It's the SIGMA study, SEIGMA. And there is a wealth of information and data on there as they are tracking in real time all of the impacts that they're seeing from casinos. And one of the reports that they have on there addresses specifically the impacts on both residential and commercial and industrial property values. And so I urge you to look at that, not just, trust us, but that, all of the studies that we've seen over the years and from our own research, we've seen that casinos do not have a negative impact on property values. We've seen that property values mostly stay the same. In some occasions, property values go up a bit because of the commercial activity in the area. But I urge everybody to take a look at that SIGMA study if they can.
And Suzanne, let me just add to that, because there's also some comments coming through, and there are some counters to that. Back about a decade ago, the National Association of Realtors, they found that some property values had gone down. I don't know who funded their study. And then there's obviously anti-gaming groups and websites that have come up with some studies that have no academic background to them. So as Suzanne pointed out, there are studies that have been done by academic groups that are published in journals that are not, that don't have a slant to them. UMass is the greatest example of someone who's done a wealth of research. They did something for Canada. They did something in Massachusetts. There was a study that was done for the Iowa Racing and Gaming Commission back in 2014. And they all showed that things are neutral, in some cases better. But most importantly, they found that it's similar to any sort of business, that it really does not impact things. If you see changes in property values, it's a far greater likelihood that it's due to some sort of macroeconomic factor. Otherwise, that basically any kind of change to a local economy or to a state would have a far greater impact than what one business will do. The one counter example to it, which could happen, is a study that I did in New Jersey a few years ago, and they were talking about adding casinos in North Jersey. And it's the issue of what would happen if a casino shut down, or if there was a cluster of casinos that all shut down, or a bunch of them got shut down, and it killed the local economy because everyone there lost their job, and all of the companies that fed the casino lost their business. So if North Jersey got casinos, all the counties around Atlantic City would suddenly, all the homes would go into foreclosure. In which case, obviously, it hits property values. But we don't expect that here. This is not going to be, the economy of Richmond's not going to be centered on a single casino. But otherwise, I go by what Suzanne said. Look at academic studies that are done, not something that you read on The Atlantic or gamblingishell.com. It's just not, those aren't reliable studies.
I want to take up one question about SUPs and zoning. So if you go to the Richmond website, you can scroll down to after this is where you can put some comments, and we have a zoning spreadsheet of like the various sites and like initial analysis of zoning, and what would be allowed and available. And then we also have one related to future land use from the Richmond 300 master plan. So that's information that's readily available to you if you went into the zoning ordinance and did all the analysis, and we just kind of shared some of the analysis with you directly, so you don't have to do that extra work. So go ahead.
I was going to say, it looks like, is it Roud? Is that there?
Yes. Let me unmute Roud. Go ahead. You can unmute and share your comments aloud.
Hello. Thank you. I have a question and then a follow-up. And the first question is the casino industry becoming saturated in the Virginia area, and thus that's going to affect Richmond? And the second follow-up question is, what other economic development projects have you entertained since the failed Navy Hill project other than casinos?
Okay. Suzanne, did you want to take the first one, and then
Certainly.
I'll do the next?
Certainly. No, I would not say that Virginia is becoming saturated. Not at all. Virginia has been undersupplied for a number of years, and Virginians have been going outside of the state for this form of entertainment. Certainly, there are concerns about saturation in other parts of the East Coast and other parts of the country where they have far more casinos per capita than Virginia will have or could potentially have. That was something that the House of Delegates considered very closely. And no, I don't believe that Virginia will be oversupplied.
Did I pronounce your name correctly, Roud? Is it Roud?
Yes.
So Roud, thank you for the question. In terms of what else we've been doing from an economic development standpoint, post the Navy Hill project, which was voted down by council, we've been extra busy. In fact, in terms of economic development projects, you may recall I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, City Council, they approved the $325 million mixed-use redevelopment of the public safety building site, which isn't costing taxpayers a dime, but yet we have a guaranteed revenue and a revenue stream, guaranteed minimum revenue, creation of a $500,000 community fund, a number of great things for the city of Richmond. In addition to that, Maritza has been leading the fine tuning of the small area plan for our downtown area so that we can move forward in terms of new redevelopment in the area around the Coliseum. The Greater Scotts Addition area is being teed up for rezoning as we're marching towards issuing an RFP for the redevelopment of the 60-acre Diamond ball field site. And in addition to that, we've announced a number of economic development projects where companies are growing and relocating in the city of Richmond, including a company that was headquartered in Austin, Texas, that now calls the city of Richmond home. So there are a number of projects that we've been engaged in, both large and small, to help make sure that we're growing Richmond's economy.
Leonard, there's a comment that's getting a little bit of traction in the chat. Are you open to selecting a developer, I guess a casino operator, but moving that operator to a different site due to environmental, traffic, and residential concerns?
Throughout the process, we have, let me start with before the process, with the issuance of the RFP. Our process was defined such that if you were going to propose to bring a resort casino to the city of Richmond, you had to propose on a specific site that you could move forward with in advance. And so it was up to each of the offerers to identify their site, secure their site, and make their proposal. We have not entertained an opportunity. So for example, and this is just purely hypothetical, if Golden Nugget had the strongest proposal, but the city thought the site that's controlled by the Pamunkey is the best site, we could not make a unilateral decision to give Golden Nugget the opportunity to move to the Pamunkey site because the Pamunkey controls that site. The only sites that we would, if we were to entertain that, anything along those lines, the only sites that we would be able to do that definitively on are sites that we would control, the city of Richmond. And so, as of today, we have not given that serious consideration.
I see one question about why don't residents get to vote on site selection that just came through, and I think the General Assembly said that there had to be one site and one operator, and that would be the one question on yes or no to that on the ballot. And go ahead.
I'd like to also say I think we are giving residents the opportunity to voice their opinion on sites. Again, trust me, there've been a wealth of emails shared, a lot of posts made where people are sharing their thoughts and opinions about the different sites across the city. And the evaluation panel, we are taking that feedback into consideration as we're doing our due diligence in terms of combing through the proposals.
Leonard, can you speak to the process in the General Assembly that got us to where we are today? To approve, allowing certain cities to be able to consider resort casinos, and then Suzanne or Leonard can talk about how that's different from other states.
I'm actually going to tag Suzanne in for that one. She's the expert.
You'll have to excuse me. I was reading some of what was in the chat, so I missed the first part of the question. So it was.
I want the background on like the General Assembly voted. The city added in competitive, that it would be competitive. Like that kind of background.
Oh, okay, certainly.
So part the state, how we're different, how Virginia is different from say Louisiana or Massachusetts. Yes. or Rhode Island.
Well, so I can say that, what has happened across the U.S. since gaming, has been legalized state by state is the decision for casino licensing of deciding who gets to own and operate a casino has been controlled by the state itself rather than local jurisdictions, cities, counties, or whatnot. The decisions have rested with the state gaming commissions or sometimes the state lotteries. So Virginia is rather unique in this, in that the state government has given all of the 5 cities basically the ability to choose what is best for their community. So Virginia is unique in that, that's not what has happened across the rest of the country. And because the city of Richmond and the other cities have been given this power, it also gives the cities some negotiating power that local governments don't have in other jurisdictions. They've just been kind of forced to accept a project that is approved at the state level.
So one thing that I understand is that the 5 cities that have been selected by the General Assembly to get to have the opportunity to vote on whether or not they want a resort casino were selected because they have high poverty levels, and so the state was trying to make sure that those cities, if they chose, would be able to get a good chunk of tax revenue to help.
Right. Right. So that was the intent of the legislation, was to provide some support to economically distressed communities. In terms of, these additional tax revenues that these communities would be eligible for. That was the intent of the legislation, absolutely.
And some things about different locations. The 6 sites that are out right now, the city did not choose those sites. Those were the proposers coming with the sites themselves. So no one in the city said this is the location. The proposer said this is a location that we are bringing to you. Just so you know.
Maritza, I'd like to respond to is it Eliza or Eliza? I want to make sure I don't mispronounce the name.
Eliza, but yeah.
There was the question about, do we get to get rid of the restaurant tax and property tax? I think that's a great question. I think, with additional revenue to the city, it creates opportunities that Richmond may not have had before in terms of progressive tax policies on a number of different things. And so that's why, again, we encourage everyone to provide their feedback. If this happens, and I do stress if it happens, because Richmonders will vote, will have the opportunity to vote on November the 2nd. If it happens, how should those revenues be used? Our goal and objective through this RFQ-RP process, it's been said, and I just want to make sure I restate it and reiterate it. It is, we are at a place where the General Assembly, for the reasons that you heard Suzanne mention, the General Assembly, the Virginia General Assembly included Richmond in a group of 5 cities that have this opportunity. And with the opportunity, our desire is to make sure that we go through a process and have the absolute best opportunity for Richmonders to ultimately say yes or no to. That's it. And on November the 2nd, every voting Richmonder will be able to cast their ballot either for or against. That's the goal. No more, no less. And in the process, as we're having the community engagement, and as we are absorbing all of the comments, and taking them to heart as we're reading the proposals and going through our process, it is to help shape what should be the absolute best opportunity for the city of Richmond, so that Richmond voters will vote yes or no to.
There are so many different comments that are coming through. Let's see. Some folks were writing about, doing this process during a pandemic, and do you want to speak to that, Leonard?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just the question was related to, we're in a pandemic, we're doing this big community engagement process, and there's going to be this big referendum, and we can't meet in person, and so why are we doing this right now?
The city, we elected last year to put a process in place for the 2021 election. You know, we know that so to the question that was also asked in terms of other economic development projects that we're working on, the pandemic, while we did absolutely focus on making sure that we could do any and everything to help make sure to preserve the health and safety and vibrancy of lives of the lives of Richmonders and businesses, we still recognize that for us to aggressively get out of the pandemic, the fiscal crisis caused by the pandemic, we have to have projects in the pipeline, and this being one of them. Again, as a result of the General Assembly's action, in addition to everything else that we've been working on and doing from an economic development standpoint. There was also a question, a comment in the chat about those who don't have access to broadband technology or hardware. We're using the community ambassadors to be out in the communities and the neighborhoods, again, just soliciting additional feedback as well. Konveio, we do understand there have been a couple of glitches, sometimes depending on the browser that you've used, but just as easily as someone can access it from their desktop, someone can can use their smartphone as well to go in, to see the information, download the information, and provide their comments.
I saw one that I wanted to respond to. Oh my gosh, where did it go? I will say that when we were doing the Richmond 300, the master plan process, we saw a lot more engagement to our virtual meetings than any of the in-person meetings that we held ever. So it's interesting how the shift to virtual has actually meant there be more engagement. And I saw, I know what the question was. Someone was asking about the proposals being posted online, the proposers' proposals being posted or shared, all the details of those. Know that we're not, that would put the city in a disadvantaged negotiating standpoint if we shared all of that. Also, they contain some confidential information that we cannot share.
John, I see your comment. I said that we had a couple of glitches with Konveio. It's not a bad system. It's a good tool. And I do see every email that comes in, and we're archiving those, and we're discussing those emails as well.
Does anyone else if you have a question you want to voice aloud, you can raise your hand and unmute as well. We've been mainly doing chat. Oh, is the city going to promote a get out the vote for a casino, yay or nay, on TV billboards to inform people that this is something that only people in Richmond City can vote on?
Would you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Is the city going to promote a get out the vote for casino, yes or no, on TV, on billboards to inform people that this is something that only people in Richmond City can vote on? That's a question.
Yes, so the city, what we will be doing is we will not be advocating for Richmonders to vote yes or to vote no. What we are, in other words, our position is making sure that Richmonders understand the opportunity that's in front of them. I've had a number of conversations with each of the council representatives. We've done a couple of, I believe we've done a couple of district meetings. There are others that are teed up, as well as we'll continue to have these online virtual meetings as well. Again, just to continue to emphasize any and everything that can be done through this process. But it will not surprise me and Scott and Suzanne, you can certainly speak to this from your previous experience. The company, the organization that is identified as the preferred operator, they likely will have some sort of campaign.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Leonard, just going back to a question you answered earlier, or actually Maritza just answered, she's the one who answered it, regarding having more than a one-pager. Over the course of the next month, there are going to be opportunities for more information to come out for each proposal well in advance of the selection committee making its decision. So while there's no way that we can provide the actual RFP responses, because as Maritza pointed out, there's a ton of confidential information that's been provided by the bidders, which, there's no way we can release that. They will be speaking to and taking answers from the community at some point over the next several months. So there will be opportunities for people to hear more about the projects.
And Scott, to that point, I do know, just based again on conversations with several council members, that there are some conversations that are being planned, town hall type of meetings that the council members are having with representatives from different proposed projects there. Raud, I see I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me take the one. There's not two questions on the referendum. It'll just be one question, and that is per General Assembly rules. And then one of the other questions that I thought would be easy. No, the city will not be doing a get out the vote campaign. And people will know if you live in Henrico and you go vote on that day, you won't have the question in your ballot. So people won't be able to vote if you don't live if you're not voting in a Richmond precinct, you will not be able to vote on this referendum question. I'm going to do it from the order that they're here. Nina Marino, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
All right, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can.
How you doing, Nina?
Thank you. So my question is just about the proposals and the site selection. Did the developers have to do any, like, I'm not going to say this correctly, but like any due diligence around all of the factors that would need to be considered in the site selections, like the environmental impact, traffic? I'm sure there's lots of other considerations I'm missing, but did they have to do any of that in their proposals, or were they really just able to identify a site that they wanted to use and put together a proposal? I'm just trying to understand the order that process would happen.
I can't speak to what each of them did individually prior to submitting their proposals. I would imagine some may have gone through lengthy due diligence, while others may not have. But what I do know absolutely is we're taking into account and into consideration a number of factors, such as transportation infrastructure, land use, a number of things. In addition to that, any project that's proposed to go forward would have to respond to any and all federal, state, and local regulatory requirements, period.
Okay, thank you. But they didn't have to do that up front as part of their initial proposal.
We did not have that as a requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kimberly, I think you were next.
Good afternoon. Thank you so very much. Please forgive me if this question has already been answered. I had some difficulty with finding the meeting link and being able to get in successfully. So in some of the language, it states that the referendum will allow citizens of Richmond to choose the casino operator and the ability for there to be a casino in Richmond. And then some of the media reports are saying that it is just choosing the option to have a casino in Richmond. So which one is it?
Yeah, it's I appreciate the question.
Oh, you're welcome. I have many. I have a dozen of those.
It's actually all in the same mixing bowl, Kimberly. The specific language and the Virginia Casino Act, and in our prior presentations, we included the language on one of the slides, but I will read it for you. So the question that will be asked on the referendum is, shall casino gaming be permitted at a casino gaming establishment in the city of Richmond and fill in the blank location? And so with us petitioning city council or city council petitioning the court, when it's on the referendum through this process, we will identify that we will have a location identified. And based on the proposals that we have, that location that's identified, we have 5 locations. Right. So it could be the spot at Chippenham and Powhite. It could be the Altria Operations Center. It could be the site that's controlled by the Pamunkey. It could be the Bowtie Cinema site. It could be the site on North Commerce, but it will only be one of those and that associated operator that is on the referendum.
Okay, so again, it will be, is there to be casino operation and there's going to be a specific location there. So it's not like the voter is choosing a location. The location is already chosen for them.
Based on this process is to identify the location and the project.
Okay, and so when the voter votes, they can't separate one idea from the other. They go together. I think that's important to educate the citizens on, because some citizens might be for the casino, but not at the commerce location. Some people might be for the casino, but their preference was another location that's not even on a choice at all. So I think that was where some of the confusion lied, even with, friends and families asking me. So I appreciate you clarifying that. And that makes it clear, if nothing else. So thank you so very much. And you didn't mention the Philip Morris location, but that
is one of them as well. Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's Urban One's RFP, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Okay, Roud.
And folks, after this, I think we're only going to have time for about 2 more questions.
Kimberly, your camera's still on, just so you know, if you want to turn it off. Brad, you can unmute.
There we go. I'll be quick. Are taxpayers' dollars used to help, quote unquote, understand the opportunity, quote, for the referendum on the ballot?
Can you restate your question, please, Round? I just want to make sure I understand.
Sure. Earlier, you just said that you said understand the opportunity. Okay, so that's the language I'm using here. So I'm asking you, are taxpayer dollars used to help understand the opportunity for the referendum on the ballot?
So so the only funds that have been expended for this are funds to hire a convergence strategy group, and that contracting the city's economic development authority has issued the solicitation whereby we were looking for consultants to assist the city in our evaluation of the proposals, working through the RFQ process, and during the market analysis and study for the city of Richmond. The maximum value of the contract for Scott and Suzanne is $120,000. Again, that's being paid by the city's economic development authority. Anything above and beyond that, we have no plans for a campaign. There are no plans for anything from a campaign standpoint. Would be done solely at the discretion of whatever operator is moving forward in this process. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Chris, I believe you were next up.
Chris, you need to unmute.
I'm sorry, I was wondering, so this is a proposal that we have to, this could come back again if it got voted down. So we are only essentially voting down one location. Should that be voted down, casinos are not voted down. It's a matter of choosing a different location for the next time. Is that correct?
This is how I would, so theoretically, yes, Chris. Theoretically, yes. As I've answered, and I'm going to answer your question the same way I answered another question, not tonight, but a different day. The Virginia Casino Act, while it was, and those who were in the 4th District meeting a couple of days ago might recall hearing me say something like this, to this effect. The Virginia General Assembly approved the Virginia Casino Act, and they have language that's very specific that speaks to the 5 communities and localities. The Virginia General Assembly, just like it passed the Virginia Casino Act, they can revise legislation as they've done at other times. And it could result in the city of Richmond being excluded from the casino opportunity. I don't know if that would happen, but again, it's a possibility. And so to say that if we vote it down, if there is a referendum that is not approved in November, would Richmond have another bite at the apple? It's possible, but not guaranteed, is probably the best way I can put it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And the last question for this evening, Hank.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for the meeting tonight. Very informative. I appreciate your time. I live not too far from one of the proposed sites, and am concerned about the impact of increased traffic on neighborhoods and communities surrounding the proposed site. What studies, or do you all intend to do any traffic impact studies before choosing a final site or one of the proposals to go forward?
So again, as we move forward, we're at a place in the evaluation process where a full-blown traffic impact analysis would likely be inadvisable. As we move forward, particularly as we zero in on the proposal to move forward, yes, I'm 100% confident that there will be a traffic impact analysis done at some point in time. But this is why we are fortunate to have individuals like Bob Stidell, who's the DCAO of operations, again, as a part of this process to help us think through questions like traffic mitigation impact, planned infrastructure improvements that are already in the pipeline. And so I don't anticipate traffic studies being done at this point in the process, but there will be traffic studies done. Will it be done for all proposals as we go through? I'm not willing to commit to that. And saying that there are only 2 other hands raised, if there's an appetite for 2 more questions, we'll take those, as I haven't seen any other hands pop up, and then we'll wrap it up for this evening.
Okay.
Olundade?
You can unmute.
Hi, how you doing? Hello?
Unmute
yourself. Yes, I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
All right, good evening, Mrs. Sledge. Thank you for all your good work. My question is this, relating to the labor agreement. Does this project require any kind of labor agreements to be on the RFP? I know the last project that was passed by City Council, the public safety building, has some community benefit agreement, and it also included a labor agreement. So do we have anything like that in any of the submission or any request, any of the proposals?
Thank you for the question. We were very fortunate and successful to have a minimum number of hours for both construction laborers and construction skilled trades persons in the development agreement for the public safety building. I think Richmond, I think that as a priority for us as a city, us including language like that, and also including language such as a good faith effort for 40% MBE participation during the construction and in the operation of the building, of the project once it's done. I think that if not anything else, being the most recent project that we led the negotiations on should help to give any offerer an indication of what our expectations are moving forward.
Thank you, Leonard. I saw Bob Stidel raised his hand, probably in response to the question earlier. Bob, go ahead and unmute.
Oh, I forgot Bob was on the line. Jump in, Bob.
Thank you, Leonard. I just want to be clear, before the final recommendation goes to both the mayor and city council, we will have internal analysis of traffic, environmental, and every other permitting requirement that's going to be necessary for the site as we get down to the point where we're having the final decision to be made for selection. So makes no sense to start with 6 because we're going to get it down to a much lower number. But when we're getting down to coalescing this summer around who is coming to the top, city staff will do all those analysis.
And last question for the evening, is that Amy Wentz?
Go ahead, Amy, unmute. Amy, you can unmute yourself. All right. On voting during a pandemic, it'll probably, I'm not really sure how the registrar is managing voting for November, but I'm sure we will have lots of details on how that will transpire, kind of how we were managed to vote November of 2020. So I imagine that they will make opportunities for people to vote.
Yeah. Last call, Amy, before we call it a night, if you're able to unmute. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for being online with us tonight. Again, as we go through this process, please go online and provide your feedback. Email your feedback also. Again, we're seeing every email that comes in, and we're taking all of the input and feedback into consideration. At the end of the day, to reiterate it a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, an infinite number of times, our objective is to negotiate the best opportunity for Richmonders to be able to say yes or no to on November the 2nd.
Amy, I have you unmuted, so I don't you have to unmute on your end. Just click on, I made you be unable to unmute, but I'm not really sure why you can't unmute. She's having trouble. Please send your question in. I don't see it coming through on the chat, but I'm sorry that did not work. Yep, like Leonard said, we have a website, and please provide your input. All the comments will be open until April 6th. And people are asking if they can have the chat. We'll include the transcripts of the chat in our report with all of our different meetings, of all of our different meetings that we've had when we share the report in the beginning of April.
I'm trying to, we did a great job getting to as many questions as we can. I kind of feel bummed out. Would you like to ask that question?
I really was trying to get in there and do it. So let me mute this, put it that way. There's no echo. Hold on, echo. Walk away. How about that? All right. So this is what I'm seeing, and this is not me saying whether I'm for or against the casino. But what residents to me seem like that they've been trying to figure out is how they can voice that they aren't for casinos at all, and how that can be quantified. And so that's what I've been seeing. My question as far as the actual casino is, are they able to change the location once the RFP has been, they've already submitted the RFP, right? Are the proposers able to change the location after that's happened?
Okay, so two questions. How are people able to voice that they do not want a casino? They can do that via email. They can go onto the Konveio boards where people are providing that feedback that they don't want a casino. And even as evidence, in the chat this evening, and then comments of individuals, people are clearly expressing that.
Absolutely, but I think they want to see the quantification of that. Is anyone keeping track of that? I think that's what I've been hearing.
I shared that.
Yeah, there was a slide
that at the beginning of the meeting, but honestly, the best way to do a poll of all of Richmonders on whether or not they want something is a referendum. That's the best way to ask for everyone's opinion. Also, Leonard, can you talk about the selection of how we have 2 council members on the evaluation panel, and
sure.
So you asked for folks to I think raise their hand to be on it. I'm not really sure. I can't remember.
Well, those members were appointed by I'm not sure what process that they used amongst themselves as council members. But there are 2 members of City Council, Vice President Ellen Robertson and Council Member Andreas Addison. Those are the City Council representatives. The other part
and they were chosen by their own body to have those 2. Yeah.
Yes. And the other question that was asked by Amy was about whether or not someone could change their location if they are the offerer that's moving forward. When we go to City Council will have to petition the court with that very specific language, again, as far as what will be on the ballot. And so I appreciate the questions, Amy. Glad we were able to get them in.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that extra effort.
No problem.
Thanks for what y'all doing. Bye.
If I had other people's phone numbers and that happened, I would have picked up and called you too. But no, we really are thankful for your time this evening.
I just saw one final question about an email. econdev@richmondgov.com is an email that you can use. So thank you very much, everyone. And we look forward to hearing more from you. Have a nice night.
Well, good night, everybody.